Hello and welcome, as well as welcome to Resonite. You're probably new if you're watching this tutorial, so let's get started. We're going to be learning how to make this thing. A button that plays a sound when it's pressed and that, pushes down. So I'm going to try and keep this concise and simple. So how do we make this button? Well, we'll get right to that. So to get started, you'll want one of these. This is called a developer tool. You can find these in the Resonite Essentials folder inside of its tools folder. I can just spawn these out because I have a spawner in my ground, but that's besides the point. Let's get started with the button, shall we? Okay, so how do we make the button make a sound and press down? Well, first off, we're going to need a button. So how do we make this button in Resonite? Well, I'll show you how I made it. So with the developer tool equipped, you'll want to open up your radial and go to Create New, and you'll want to look for 3D Model. You'll want to create a cylinder, and look, you've created a big cylinder. But that doesn't look like a button, you might say, and you'd be correct. So, how do we make this weird cylinder into a button? Well, I'll show you. Let's go on ahead and switch back to first person. I'll select this with my developer tool equipped using my secondary button. And now that it's selected, I can open up my radial and go to Open Inspector on the context menu. This will open up the Scene Inspector with the cylinder slot selected. Now, what are slots? Slots are literally anything and everything. Avatars, models, objects, you name it. It's everything in the game, including the world itself, actually. So, we're not focused on that right now. What we want to do is we want to change the size and radius of this cylinder. So, to do that, we're going to want to modify the height and radius values here. Now, we'll want something really small on the height, like say 0.05. Yeah, it's a good height. And then let's try just dragging this value onto the radius. Bop. So what that does is when you grab a value, it basically holds it in your hand, and if you place it onto another value of the same type, it just changes it to that held value. So that's really handy if you really need to copy a bunch of values over at once, but you'll notice it's a little too small. So let's adjust this, maybe make it like 1. Yeah, that's looking good. I think so, at least. So, now that we've got the button base, let's go ahead and name it up here at the top of the slot. We'll name it Base. That way we know what it is. It's not just a cylinder like my other button over here. So, what's the next step? The next step is creating the actual button part. Let's do that. So, we'll want to create another model. Let's deselect that so there's not a bounding box. We'll want to create another model. Create new 3D model. Let's create a sphere. So you'll be like, whoa, big sphere. How is this going to be a button? Well, I'll show you. So let's select it and then open its inspector as well, like we did with the other. And you'll see under sphere mesh here, there is a radius slider. We'll probably want that to go down to like, let's say 0.1. If it's a little too hard to get it to 0.1 with the slider, you can go over here, click this box, and then just set the value however you'd like. So you'll notice it's not flat like my button. Well, we're going to fix that by going to Gizmo Options with the sphere selected, and then go to Scale, and then we'll just squish that down. Nice. So that's now kind of flat and more button-like. So now we'll go back into Gizmo Options, and we'll go to Translation. Translation lets you move the box on a specific axis, several axes at once, on a plane, or you can just move the middle of the box. Now you might ask, why would you use that and not use, like, grabbing with your laser? Well, Moving things with the transform gizmo is a bit more precise, and it allows you to move things only on a certain axis or plane, so that way if you have like something lined up with the ground, you don't accidentally lift it up off the ground, which could be really annoying. So you'll notice that's still a bit too big, so we'll go to scale again, and we'll grab this box and just shoop until it's about that size. That looks like a good size. And we'll also push it down so it's just slightly poking out. Yeah, looks good. Alright, so now we'll want to make the button work. First off, to do that, we're going to want to put the button we've just created underneath the base. Dragging that slot underneath the base's slot, what that does is it parented our button to the base. This makes it so that the button will now move along with the base. This has effectively turned the two separate objects into one, or something like that. It's still two objects, but they now stick together. So, how do we make the button press down? Well, let's get right into that. The way we make the button press down is we're actually going to go to sphere here, which is our button. Let's actually rename that to button real quick to make things easier to remember. Oh, not buttage. First off, before we do anything, we want to make sure we get rid of grabbable here. This component makes it so that whatever it's on is grabbable. And the reason we don't want it on the button is because it lets us do this. We don't want that to happen. We don't want to destroy our button by accident. So we just go over here to this little trash can beside grabbable and delete. And now when you try to grab it, it'll grab the whole button instead. Very handy. So now let's get to the actual pressing down part. We'll want to go to attach component, and then there'll be a lot of things here, but don't worry, I'll tell you where it is. I'm not evil. We'll go to transform and interaction, and there should be something called a physical button. Now, at first glance, this doesn't look like it's done anything, but if you go over here, you'll notice, uh-oh, button's not doing what it should. Well, we can fix that. It's because it assumes that the button will be moving on the Z-axis, which isn't correct at all. We want it to move down. So, we want to put a 0 on this Z right here, and change this Y to a -1. So that way it goes down instead of up, because Y is up and down. So now, when we press on it, it goes down, but maybe a little too much. So, next step is to make it so that it doesn't go down as far. This is where press depth comes in. So we want to change press depth to something like 0.01. Let's test that out. Perfect! Looking good there. Now you're probably wondering, how do we get it to make a sound we can hear? Well, yet again, we're going to go over that. If we want it to make a sound that we can hear, we want to go to Attach Component, Common UI, Button Interactions, Media, and Button Audio Clip Player. This basically detects when this is pressed down and makes it play an audio clip. So, you'll see a bunch of things here, and don't worry, we won't mess with all of these, we'll just be messing with one. You'll notice there's something called pressed clips. This is the clips that will play when the button is pressed down. So we'll want to click Add, and you'll see a lot more things here. Don't worry about those. We mainly want to worry about this field right here, the clip. So how do we get an audio clip in there? The best way to do that is to, well, either record or grab an audio clip from your computer. This is one I've made right here, which is the same one on... Whoopsie, I am getting messy here. Whoopsie, my bad. This is the one I used on this button. So, now we want this audio clip in there. We just grab it and now when we press it, hooray, it makes the sound. And so that's pretty much it. If you'd like me to teach you how to change the color of the button, let me know. We can go over materials in another video, like the material basics and how to set up textures, colors, metallic, that kind of stuff. But for the time being, this is a short comprehensive guide on how to make a pressable button that plays a sound. Hopefully I was easy to follow, and hopefully this helps you in your endeavors. I will definitely try to make more videos in the future, and if there's anything you particularly want to know how to do as an entry-level player in Resonite, let me know. Let me know in the comments. Catch you later. Thank you so much for watching. Off I go.